Hi, welcome to Hill's Kitchen, where I took so long to make this video that the ingredients that I purchased made their way back to the freezer, and I, not paying attention, did not pull the meat out of the freezer, which is a rookie mistake. We all have been there. If you don't take it out, it's a wrap. So this is basically gonna be a two-part video because I fumbled. What you thought you were gonna get is vegan meatballs and vulnerability. Instead, you're getting me making what's in the freezer on the fly while these de-thaw. I believe I meant to make this into two videos. So, period. Vulnerability is such a serious topic that it can't be fit into one video. And so I almost feel relieved knowing that I have two parts, because then however long this takes, however long it takes, and y'all just y'all just get what you get. Recently, I would say a week or two ago, wound up looking up the definition of vulnerability. I mean, there's two different definitions. The first is that it means weak or exposed. You're basically out in the open and you're uncovered, you're unprotected. And then the other definition is what's revealed about you or what's come to light leaves you exposed. The experience of having whatever about you, whether that be your feelings, your actions, your thoughts, whatever, be made known while you're aware of the fact that it can be weaponized, it can be used against you. In more recent years, it's become, I would argue, trendy to be pro vulnerability and make it seem like that's something you care about or whatever. But I'm gonna be very real. I think that's one of the platitudes and ideals that people say and are not actually about. Because when you sit with that definition, that means that you're willingly sharing things about yourself and your life that can fall into the wrong hands and or be flipped on you, and you are okay with that. You're not pressed about what anybody else says or thinks, because you're showing up open, you're showing up sensitive, you're showing up expressive. I feel like this video has been a long time coming, but also hard to make because, how do I put this nicely? A lot of people want to be famous for the wrong things. And I mean, Saved by the Bell. Oh, see y'all next week. I'm playing. I mean, I'm finna put this little pizza in the oven, so I'm not gonna leave y'all right there, okay? As soon as I find what I'm looking for, I'm coming right back. Now see, this was supposed to be somebody else's, but I don't believe they want it because it's been in the freezer for weeks. So I'm gonna just take one for the team and go ahead and eat it. Because I did not do what I was supposed to do, and it kind of just worked out that way. I'm gonna go with 13. Anyway, we digress. I feel like a lot of people want to be famous for the wrong things. And why would you say that matters? Why even bring that up? Because this channel is hard to make. I know that sounds ridiculous because it's I'm not doing anything life-changing. I'm not doing crazy editing. I'm no Casey Neistat. I'm not doing anything really fancy, snazzy, or whatever. But I feel getting up here every week and knowing the things that I talk about hit home, that they're not easy, that they're really raw, and they don't have a right or wrong answer, and to pour that much of myself into what I put on the internet is equally terrifying and freeing at the same time. It's terrifying because it's literally the most vulnerable I've ever been. I think if you know me well in real life, oh, this is how I talk regularly. But by virtue of this channel being what it is, I think a lot of people who thought they know me now feel differently about me. I'm being very vulnerable, actively expressing how much of a believer I am, expressing how I really feel about certain topics, how I feel about political stuff, not political stuff. I just let it all hang out. And that's actually terrifying, because to be vulnerable then means that there's this self-awareness in which you are aware that oh, this can be used against me. But at the same time, it's freeing, because it's if you actually stay in a posture of being vulnerable and practicing that on a regular basis, then you just feel light. You feel light as a feather. What people know about me are things that I actually feel and believe. Me I show the internet is the me that I really am. I can't pretend. I could never be out here making makeup videos or prank videos, challenge videos, all this stuff that like you're used to seeing on YouTube. I just get up here and be authentic. I just get up here and be myself. I've gone back and forth with my flesh and with God about it so many times. When I started my channel in 2020, the spirit had worn me down so many times that I knew, oh, I have to do this. Like there's no getting around it. It's funny because so many people were supportive of it, even though I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I was trying to figure out, oh, what's my niche? What am I gonna do? Blah, blah, blah. It was sexy and cool. Like, oh, Autumn's doing YouTube. And now, flash forward years later, it's like I kind of played myself, you know, taking all that time to actually get serious about it the way I am now. But then it's like a whole different channel. Not only by me being halfway consistent, I mean, it's still work in progress, let's be real, but like it's also a whole different energy just because I'm not doing anything, I guess, to make myself palpable or likable to anybody else. I'm just being me, and I'm just being naked about a lot of things. To do this every week, it takes a lot because I have to like, you don't work up the nerve. Like I don't come up here and talk about anything that I don't feel convicted like that is the right time to talk about. I have a whole list of stuff that I like have ideas for, but I won't come and shoot it until I know, okay, this is the week for it. This is the recipe that's meant for it. I wasn't exactly jumping to talk about vulnerability. Like I knew, like I had bought the stuff for the meatballs weeks ago and did not know what I was supposed to talk about with it. So I just kept it in the fridge to the point where it has now moved in and out of the freezer all these times. And it's arguably not safe to eat, and I'm gonna do it anyway. I don't say all this to be giving myself on a pat on the back. I say all this to say I have no regrets about being vulnerable. Like, I don't want thousands of subscribers or even millions based off of something that's a lie or based off stuff that's not really me. If every video I ever put out only gets like 5 views, I still technically did what I was supposed to do. Like, that's okay with me. But it's like sometimes, right, to be that vulnerable and naked, you are left feeling like you out in the cold. People do far less and seem to get so much further. And that's not even about YouTube. I just mean in general. You can really be out here standing firm and flat-footed about the business idea or about your designs or what you want to do or like the vision for your life. And it doesn't even seem like you're progressing because you're doing it right and it's going slow. It's not, it's like a drip, drip, drip situation. And even that feels generous. Like at best, it's like a drip and then this very long pause and then drip, and you seeing everybody else, you know, their faucet is just great. You know, mind you, they ain't even really doing nothing for the faucet. Like it is, in other words, they are doing it the world's way and like taking shortcuts, doing wild stuff, not having great character, like up to no good, and your energy is just like, oh. But yet you feel in your spirit, no, I can't. I'm not going to do it like everybody else. Or I'm not going to cheat on my taxes. Or I'm not going to like lie about what I really want for my life. I'm not going to downplay, you know, my convictions. To actually live like that, you know what I mean? You are left feeling vulnerable because then you are open to attack, literally by being set apart. And this is what I've realized at this point in life. To actually be set apart and to have integrity and values, character, and any form of like righteousness is automatically vulnerable. Because if you're light in the darkness, you stand out just by virtue of that. To be unlike what's around you sets you apart, distinguishes you in a way that like nobody can touch, like, or can even understand almost. You just doing you the way you were meant to do. And whoever sees it, sees it. Whoever claps for it, claps for it. Whoever understands you, understands you. And whoever supports you, supports you. But the flip of that is then whoever leaves you, leaves you. Whoever judges you, judges you. Whoever mocks you, mocks you. And whoever like persecutes you, persecutes you. The longer I've become a Christian and the more like it shapes me, like not only my mind, my heart, my spirit, my soul, the more I realize that like you really do have to be sober-minded at all times, because it's a lot easier to be in the world by acting like the world. So in other words, it's a lot easier to be defensive, tell people you're fine when you're not really fine. It's a lot easier to not take accountability when you make mistakes or when you're out of pocket. They will get up there and play games and like pretend that everything's okay because I don't actually want anybody to see me exposed. So I'm gonna let you think the marriage is great or the relationship is amazing. I'm gonna let you think that like I've never been happier and I'm not living paycheck to paycheck and I'm not going through things. And I'm going to let you think, you know, everything's cool with what I want to do. I'm not going through nothing. We all can talk about times when we were posting X, Y, and Z on social media, versus what we were really going through. Or, you know, seeing people in real life, you know, live life a certain way, and then you run into them at the store, run into them at church, and you're like, oh my God, congrats on this. And you start talking to them, and something you say kind of like cracks the facade, and all of a sudden it just all comes out. Like you learn that, oh, they not going, that's not what I thought at all. That's not what I saw on the gram. That's not what I saw on Twitter. And I say this because when we talk about vulnerability and authenticity, but specifically vulnerability, the energy is, oh, nobody should know my business, and you need to move in silence, and you need to protect yourself, and, you know, don't let nobody know too much about you, and all sorts of stuff. And I've reached a point where I'm like, and what about it? Like, for every person that sees it and loves it, yeah, there are going to be like 5-10 people who don't F with it, or who, you know, mock you, but she deserved it, or can't relate. But what about that one person? Like, I'm like, the amount of people that would be set free and or healed simply by feeling seen and or like validated by knowing that they're not alone, or that like their heroes or whoever and that they look up to have gone through such real things, that not only humanizing them but making them more relatable and rootable. I would rather that than to like be put on this pedestal where, again, you're not seen as human. And I feel like that's why like cancel culture is as bad. That's a whole separate video. But I will say, I feel like that's why the energy around cancel culture is the way it is, because like all of these pastors, celebrities, rappers, artists, models, what have you, whoop, not me getting interrupted. They all want grace and forgiveness and like understanding just like the rest of us. But the gag is they spent their journey to becoming who they are putting on a facade. So people are in love with the facade. Ooh, let me make sure this didn't burn. Almost looking good. But yeah, it's like they don't want to know about the bankruptcy. They don't want to know, you know, all the mental health struggles, like only to a certain extent. And then suddenly it's, oh, you're complaining too much, or oh, you're so negative, or oh, like what a charity case, what a pity. And it's like, no, if you're going through several winters in a row, you get to a point where you're like, I'm not gonna front with y'all. I'm not gonna get up here and lie and be like, oh, I'm living the time of my life. You know what I mean? Like, and you get to a point where you're going through such real stuff where you're like, I don't really care if y'all feel any way about me. You know, like I gotta do what I gotta do. So yeah, if I'm still in the lion's den, I'm still in the lion's den. If I'm still in the pit, I'm in the pit. If I'm still going back and forth with God about stuff, then that's the tea. And I'm like, we just don't want people to see that. And so I'm saying, I almost feel like part of the reason why my channel exists, which I didn't realize till like now, but I think part of why it's my assignment is because it's high time for people to actually use their realm of influence, however big or small, to actually be authentic and to be talking about real things. Like, again, the world has enough reaction videos. I'll just say it. Like, you know, yeah, I could tell you what I think about Paramore's new album, or, you know what I mean, I can get up here and talk about things that really matter. Like, I honestly can't even speak about Paramore's new album because I haven't heard it yet, and that's really bad as a true fan. But like, I will in due time. But anyway, it's like I could get up here and talk about, you know, how I feel about Keke Palmer's baby name, but that's not actually what y'all care about. Something about, doing this more often, but then not tripping about promoting myself or what other people think has then freed me. Where it's just like, oh, I can get up here and really say what I need to say. And that's the point. I'm actually proud of what I make. I'm proud that like, oh, what I put up here is not only true to who I am, but true to God's word and true to what I would want somebody to know about me, as well as what I would want somebody to tell younger me if I didn't have somebody like me in my life. Speaking from personal experience, I don't have older sisters. I don't have like family members I can trust. I just never had a lot of role models that were like peers to me, like growing up. Like everybody was like significantly older than me and or way out of reach, like somebody very famous. It was never somebody that was just like normal, but was doing like interesting stuff and was like being vocal and candid about what they were going through. And going back to that energy of people like using their mask and trying to get people to like fall in love with the mask of them. Once you start really moving in vulnerability, you absolutely are not feeling somebody who's doing the opposite. And I feel like because I always halfway cared about honesty, I couldn't take a lot of people around me seriously because I knew they were BSing me. And it's like, I get if you're not there yet, or you like, oh no, I don't want people to know, blah, blah, blah. But it's also like, okay, but then what do you want people to know? Like, I'm like, there's a certain level of like craftiness and like slickness where, again, you're not gonna let people know what you're really going through unless they've been friends with you for X number of years. Or, oh, you're not really gonna let people know with like the things you've been through or how you used to be, unless, you know what I mean, they were with you in that season. Like, again, I'm like, why are we hiding our scars? Why are we like afraid to cry in front of people? Why do we feel like, oh, you know, I gotta protect this mask that y'all know me through? What if you just take off the mask and that's how you know me? Like, because I'm not gonna mask up for y'all. I'm not gonna spend my life trying to like come up with a narrative or a solution that makes me palpable and exciting and sexy and interesting and fun to everybody else. I'm like, this is my life. Either y'all about it or y'all not, but it's still gonna be my life, which is tea. You go through some real stuff, you don't care who sees you. Like, I mean, I gotta focus on this. Like, if y'all get it, great. If you don't, oh well. So I'm like, I just had to say, like, please don't let the world's lack of a reaction or reaction dictate whether you do or don't show up as the real you. You need to do that regardless. The fact that there could one day be millions of people who can just sit and watch the like evolution of my life and watch me talk about all these things in very real seasons of my life is kind of petrifying. I'm gonna be real. But at the same time, I'm like, if that's what is meant to like happen, okay. But I'm just saying, I think we all have areas and spheres of influence in our lives where our vulnerability would actually make a difference, even though we don't think it would. Like, I'll never forget, like in the first month of me working my little part-time job that I have right now, this guy, he's like 7 or 8 years younger than me, so he's only like 20 or so, and we were just talking very casually. You know, we had only had small talk up to this point, because again, we just met, because I had only been working there for like 2 weeks, and he asked me, you know, it comes out how old I am. And then he asked me if I was in school. And then I said, well, yeah. And then he said, oh, what have you studied? And so then I laughed. I was like, well, this is kind of like my 3rd degree. So like, you know, but I answered the question like, oh, this is what I was studying at each point. And then he said, he just turned to me out of the blue and he said, have you ever failed a class? Now, that's a very specific question. And a lot of people be like, what? No, like they would lie. I mean, some people have never failed a class, so that's not a lie. But like others would not even be there, like trying to like entertain that. And I just started smiling because it just went straight to the heart of it. And I didn't even have a chance to like, you know what I mean? Come up with nothing. So I said, you know what? It's so funny you asked, because in the first 2 degrees, I was good. I didn't fail nothing. I was solid. But yeah, this degree, I actually did. And that's part of how I wound up back here. And before that, he was like, oh, I just need advice because I don't really have anybody in my life, you know what I mean, that's like at this stage, you know what I mean, has done all that you've done. And mind you, I'm just minding my business. I don't think I'm doing anything special. But, you know, he said that. So then when I said that about failing class, and he was like, oh, so what did you do? I was like, it's going to take me even longer. Like, it could have taken me 1 or 2 years. And now as a total, it's going to take me like 5 or 6. And he was like, oh my gosh. What I didn't know was that he had just failed a class. And I guess, you know, it really hit him hard. And I don't know if his family gave him a hard time or other people in his life. But just to talk to somebody and they, you know what I mean, understand that and didn't lie about it. Because again, that wouldn't have helped him at all if I'd have been like, no, sorry. Oh, you failed something. Like if I had came off with a different energy, the whole moment would have been lost. But instead I was just like, yo, like, actually, yeah. And we're talking about it. And it's like, it's funny because we're not best friends. But I feel like in that moment, like we were what each other needed. I feel like he needed to know that it would be okay despite him failing. And I needed to be given the opportunity to talk about what I had been through with no shame, to talk about it in a stance of victory, in a stance of courage, and in a stance of like acceptance. because up until then it hadn't been that. It was something that I very actively didn't want anybody to know. Somebody asking me about it in real life and they have no clue what I have just been through, like on the other side of the world. Like, I'm like, aha, like, funny you should mention it. So anyway, thank you for watching. And also thank you for being you. I know that doesn't seem like it's correlated, but it is, because I think the more you grow into yourself, the more you know how to be yourself. And ideally you reach a point where you're not afraid of that. And I think vulnerability is that at its best, that you will show up as the full you in every space that you're in. There's not this work you and this school you and this church you and, you know, who you are with your boyfriend, who you are with your girlfriend, who you are with your friends, who you are around. Blah, blah. Like, you could just show up as you. So again, I'm not scared. I'm not scared for my future husband to see this and everything else. I'm not scared for my in-laws to see it. I'm not scared for employers to see it. I'm not scared of my haters to see it. I'm not scared of my biggest fans to see it, because I'm like, then you saw me. And whether how you felt about me is how you felt about the real me. So vulnerability cannot be giving us a it. We need to get past that. We need to graduate from that, because it actually can set people free. It can move people. It can free people to receive the vulnerability of someone else, which I think is an excellent segue for part 2, which I can't wait to film. And I already feel better just posting this, because I was stressed about this video. I was like, what am I gonna get up there and say? And I'm just getting started. This had to be 2 parts. I see why. I see why. I'm grateful the meatballs were in the freezer, because this was too much for one. Thank you guys. I will see you next week. I'm back on Sundays. You see, change is possible for anybody, guys. Like consistency is not out of reach. Like, anyway, I don't want my food to get cold, and I've already taken up a lot of your time, but I hope this helped you. This wasn't nothing to make. Like, it just popped it in, put some time on it. It's good. But yes, grateful to come on here and have a space in my life where I will be myself no matter what, which bleeds into other areas of my life, because then it's like, I don't think twice then about being myself anywhere else in my life, which is a beautiful thing to accomplish at a young age, and to stand in and to not shrink from. So I hope this helps you get a little bit closer to doing that in your own life. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.